Greetings friends and welcome to the final part of the series of lectures on the topic ionic equilibrium. In today's lecture we shall discuss first acid-base titrations, second acid-base titration curves, third acid-base indicators, then mechanism of action of indicators, and finally the role of indicators in different acid-base titrations. Now to begin with, let us see what actually titration means. It's a volumetric analysis technique in which a solution of known concentration called the titrant is slowly added to another solution of unknown concentration until the reaction reaches neutralization, which is often indicated by a color change. Acid-base neutralizations through titration allows for quantitative analysis of the concentration of an unknown acid or base solution. Now, pH titration curves. Titration curves are graphic representations of acid-base titrations which generally contain the volume of the titrant as the independent variable and the pH of the solution as the dependent variable, because it changes depending on the composition of the two solutions. Let's now see how pH changes during different acid-base titrations and how acid-base titration curves look. When we carry out a simple acid-base titration, we use an indicator to tell when we have the acid and alkali mixed in exactly the right proportions to neutralize each other. When the indicator changes color, this is often described as the end point of the titration. In an ideal world, the color change would happen when we mix the two solutions together in exactly equal proportions. That particular point is known as the equivalence point. For example, if we were titrating sodium hydroxide solution with hydrochloric acid, both with a concentration of 1 mole per decimeter cube, 25 centimeter cube of sodium hydroxide would need exactly the same volume of the acid because they react 1:1 according to the equation sodium hydroxide aqueous plus hydrochloric acid HCl aqueous gives NaCl aqueous plus H2O in its liquid form. In this particular instance, this would also be the neutral point of the titration because sodium chloride solution has a pH of 7. But that isn't necessarily true of all the salts that might get formed. For example, if we titrate ammonia solution with hydrochloric acid, we would get ammonium chloride formed. The ammonium ion is slightly acidic, and so pure ammonium chloride solution has an acidic pH. That's a pH lesser than 7. That means at the equivalence point where we had mixed the solution in the correct proportions according to the equation, the solution wouldn't actually be neutral. To use the term neutral point in this context would be misleading. Similarly, if we titrate sodium hydroxide solution with ethanoic acid, at the equivalence point, the pure sodium ethanoate formed has a slightly alkaline pH because the ethanoate ion is slightly basic. The term equivalence point means that the solutions have been mixed in exactly the right proportions according to the equation. The term endpoint represents the stage where the indicator changes color. As we will learn later, endpoint isn't necessarily exactly the same as the equivalence point. Now, there are various types of pH curves. They range from simple to very complex. Let's first discuss what simple pH curves mean. All the titration curves that will be discussed ahead are based on both acid and alkali having a concentration of 1 mole per decimeter cube. In each case, we start with 25 centimeter cube of one of the solution in the flask and the other one in a burette. Titration curves for a strong acid and strong base. To discuss this, we will take hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide as typical of a strong acid and a strong base titration. Numerically, we can have sodium hydroxide NaOH aqueous plus hydrochloric acid HCl aqueous gives NaCl aqueous plus water in its liquid form. Now there are two cases. Either we can run acid into the alkali or we can run alkali into the acid. The first one is running acid into the alkali. As depicted from the graph, we can see that the pH only falls a very small amount until quite near the equivalence point. Then there is a really steep plunge. If we calculate the values, the pH falls all the way from 11.3 when we have added 24.9 centimeter cube to 2.7 when we have added 25.1 centimeter cube. The second case would be running alkali into the acid. This is very similar to the previous curve except that the pH starts off low and increases as we add more sodium hydroxide solution. Again, the pH doesn't change very much until we get close to the equivalence point. Then it surges upwards very steeply. The second case would be titration curves for strong acid and weak base. This time, let's take hydrochloric acid as the strong acid and ammonia solution as the weak base. Numerically, we can show NH3 aqueous, that is ammonia, plus hydrochloric acid HCl aqueous gives NH4Cl ammonium chloride in its aqueous form. At the very beginning of the curve, the pH starts by falling quite quickly as the acid is added, but the curve very soon gets less steep. This is because a buffer solution is being set up composed of the excess ammonia and the ammonium chloride being formed. We can notice that the equivalence point is now somewhat acidic, a bit less than pH 5, because pure ammonium chloride isn't neutral. However, the equivalence point still falls on the steepest bit of the curve. That will turn out to be important in choosing a suitable indicator for the titration. The third is titration curves for weak acid and strong base. As an example, let's take ethanoic acid and sodium hydroxide as typical of a weak acid and a strong base. Numerically, CH3COOH aqueous, that is ethanoic acid, plus sodium hydroxide NaOH aqueous gives CH3COONA, that is sodium ethanoate aqueous, plus H2O, that is water. As can be seen from the graph, there is steep fall in pH till 25 centimeter cube of base is added. Past the equivalence point, we have a buffer solution containing sodium ethanoate and ethanoic acid. This resists any large fall in pH. Then there is a case of titration curve for weak acid and weak base. The common example of this would be ethanoic acid and ammonia. Numerically, we can write CH3COOH aqueous plus NH3 aqueous gives CH3CONH4, that is ammonium ethanoate aqueous. It so happens that these two are both about equally weak. In this case, the equivalence point is approximately pH 7, that is at a neutral pH. This is really just a combination of graphs we have already seen. Up to the equivalence point, it is similar to the ammonia hydrochloric acid case. After that equivalence point, it is like the end of the ethanoic acid sodium hydroxide curve. As can easily be seen, this titration doesn't have a steep pH fall. Lack of a steep bit means that it is difficult to do a titration of a weak acid against a weak base. Now, the next important point is what acid-base indicators mean and how are they helpful. An indicator is a large organic molecule that works somewhat like a color dye. Whereas most dyes do not change color with the amount of acid or base present, there are many molecules known as acid-base indicators which do respond to a change in the hydrogen ion concentration. Most of the indicators are themselves weak acids. A variety of indicators change color at various pH levels. A properly selected acid-base indicator can be used to visually indicate the approximate pH of a sample. An indicator is usually a weak organic acid or base dye that changes color at definite pH values. The weak acid form, that is H indicator, HIN, will have one color, and the weak acid negative ion, IN negative, indicator negative, will have a different color. The weak acid equilibrium can be shown as HIN, that is H indicator gives H positive plus indicator negative. For example, phenolphthalein at a pH of 8.2 is colorless, while as it is red at a pH of 10. Similarly, bromophenol blue is yellow at a pH of 3 and it is blue at a pH of 4.6. Methyl orange is red at a pH of 3.1 and yellow at pH above 4.4. Let's now discuss the molecular basis for the indicator color change. Color changes in molecules can be caused by changes in electron confinement. More confinement makes the light absorbed more blue and less dispersal makes it more red. The molecular basis is the extent of conjugation and the HOMO, that is highest occupied molecular orbital, dash LUMO, that is lowest unoccupied molecular orbital energy gap. Let's take the example of phenolphthalein and understand how it works. There are 3 benzene rings in phenolphthalein. Every atom involved in a double bond has a p orbital which can overlap side to side with similar atoms next to it. The overlap creates a pi bond which allows the electrons in the p orbital to be found on either bonded atom. These electrons can spread like a cloud over any region of the molecule that is flat and has alternating double and single bonds as it is completely conjugated. Each of the benzene rings is such a system. The carbon atoms at the center, adjacent to the yellow circled red oxygen atom, doesn't have a p orbital available for pi bonding, and it confines the pi electrons to the rings. The molecule absorbs in the ultraviolet, and this form of phenolphthalein is thus colorless. However, in basic solution, the molecule loses one hydrogen ion. Almost instantly, the 5-sided ring in the center opens and the electronic structure around the central carbon changes to a double bond, which now does contain pi electrons. The pi electrons are no longer confined separately to 3 benzene rings, but because of the change in geometry around the yellow circled atom, the whole molecule is now flat and electrons are free to move around the entire molecule. The result of all of these changes is that the molecule absorbs in visible region and the change in color is to pink. Many other indicators behave on the molecular level in a similar fashion. The details may be different, but the result is a change in electronic structure along with the removal of a hydrogen ion from the molecule. Plant pigments in flowers and leaves also behave in this fashion and are thus colored in nature. There are various types of indicators that are used in day-to-day practice. Among them, few are discussed as methyl orange. Methyl orange is a pH indicator frequently used in titrations because of its clear and distinct color changes. Because it changes color at the pH of a mid-strength acid, it is usually used in titrations for acids. Unlike a universal indicator, methyl orange does not have a full spectrum of color change but has a sharper endpoint. In the methyl orange case, the halfway stage where the mixture of red and yellow produces an orange color happens at pH of 3.7, nowhere near neutral. Thus, this is an acidic indicator because it operates in a pH which is much below 7. Another very important indicator that's commonly used is phenolphthalein. Phenolphthalein is a weak acid, and in its case the weak acid is colorless and its ion is bright pink. Adding hydroxide ions removes the hydrogen ions from the equilibrium, which tips to the right to replace them, turning the indicator pink. The halfway stage happens at pH 9.3. Since a mixture of pink and colorless is simply a paler pink, this is difficult to detect with an accuracy. Now the next very important point is the pH range of indicators. Indicators do not change color sharply at one particular pH given by their pK indicator. Instead, they change over a narrow range of pH. Assume that the equilibrium is firmly to one side, but now we add something to start to shift it. As the equilibrium shifts, we'll start to get more and more of the second color formed, and at some point the eye will start to detect it. For example, suppose we have methyl orange in an alkaline solution so that the dominant color is yellow. Now if we start to add acid so that the equilibrium begins to shift, at some point there will be enough of the red form of the methyl orange present that the solution will begin to take an orange tint. As we go on adding more and more acid, the red will eventually become so dominant that we can no longer see any yellow. There is a gradual smooth change from one color to the other taking place over a range of pH. As a rough rule of thumb, the visible change takes place at about pH 1 unit to either side of the pK indicator value. The exact values for the three indicators we have looked at are litmus having a pK indicator value of 6.5 and works in the pH range 5 to 8. Methyl orange has a pK indicator value of 3.7 and works in the pH range of 3.1 to 4.4. Similarly, phenolphthalein has a pK indicator value of 9.3 and it works in the pH range of 8.3 to 10. The litmus color change happens over an unusually wide range, but it is useful for detecting acids and alkalis in the lab because it changes color around pH 7. Choosing right indicators for titrations. We should remember that the equivalence point of a titration is where we have mixed the two substances in exactly equal proportions. We obviously need to choose an indicator which changes color as close as possible to that equivalence point. That varies from titration to titration depending on the nature of the acid and the base that are being titrated against one another. That's all we have for you in today's lecture. Hope you have understood it well. Thank you and goodbye.